I will be reading from mostly from Undiscovered Country, this book here. And as Erica said, it's a lot to do with mortality and getting older now that I'm on this side of 40. And both my parents have passed, and so there are poems that relate to that. This book is unique for me in that it has two longer poems in it. And a long poem is tricky to put in a book. I liken it to walking into a house with a very long beam and deciding where to put it down. You kind of just put it down where you are. I'll be reading from in the end of the book, but not the long poem in the beginning of the book. Supplication. Thunder in the afternoon, then a downpour, the rain sheeting off the shingles over the kitchen window, a curtain so clean I want to stick my arm through until it becomes a thing of its own on the other side, suspended there, a single digit extended, an insect with one antenna lightly wagging. Later, I catch the trees. They stammer sunlight all day through their canopies, into my eyes, onto my ears and my feet. God speaks, licks his thumb an infinite number of times and presses the light onto each leaf. What is the square footage of my soul? I've come to the end of it more than once, pressed the streets of the city into service, walked the very edges to the corners, walked the day into its lateness. The streets downtown, the road by the river, between the fish hatchery and finger jointer plant, old houses in a row, stuttering into the industrial yard, the last one on the end boarded up and made do as a storage shed. Oh, what wild things grow up at its concrete base. In the reddening light, the air alive with dust, with winged insects, a simple curve of stem arcs so clearly in the jumble, its flower bowed and bobbing, it breaks open my heart. I stretch out my hand, pretend to shade my eyes, fingers seeking. This poem is called Homing Beacon, after Patrick Friesen. Night engine, it's somehow good to see you working out the long length from here to there, working out the vulgarities of steel on steel. Across fields of serried grass, these yellow stalks enmeshed in snow, knuckled and nodding and hiding the studious eye, the coyote. A piston strain of light beam pushes under each overpass, the thinnest glimmer in the dark, the industry lights at loading docks. The mallards are off track, flying this way near the bridge and that way in the falling snow upriver and at other angles to my peripheral. It could be I'm completely overdrawn and the only thing left is to head home. It could be that someone has kept a few lights on. I should say that I live just outside of Prince George, and though we don't have any snow now, we do get winter for what seems like 5 to 6 months of the year. So you'll hear a lot of references to winter and to the landscape and the weather. I'm going to take a little detour. As Erica said, we collaborated on some video poems together. So I'll read a video poem that was made into a video poem in the book, and then I'll read the two that we collaborated on and a few other video poems. He talked in his sleep. She wishes for a morning with wet snow and the birds' flagrant disregard, their beaks stuffed with bits of straw as they shuttlecock. Between their peep-a-peep and the falling, she lets her eyes drift. Once again, the house lifts off, rising up to meet the snow. If only the only thing she could hear was the clock, the inner works of the furnace and the eternal hum. how he wore the shirt of his uniform and played his old songs, how he would shudder alone downstairs with the record player, the aura of street lamp pouring in a sickly illumination, how he would carefully hang the shirt back in the dark closet, scuttle crabwise into his side of the bed as if under tripwire. So this poem, Erica did a wonderful job putting footage to it, and another poet, Annalise Gelman, did the narration. We have become children. The fireweed spikes the summer sun, hanging still in the sky, and we clean forget the deep dark winter held tight, how we clung to it, how we cradled it, as if it were a flame, how darkness we dare is as much part of us as light. In buttercups and goldenrod yellow at our knees, and in the gusts bending trees to shape, bowing like Buddhist monks to blessing, I see you, river, in the distant gleam, moving stone over stone. I see you, mountains, how you prop up the sky with cold white spires. Thank you. So we too open our lips to mouth our prayers like water over stones. And the international video poem that Erica was mentioning, read so beautifully by Sandro, when he sent the audio file, I said to myself, something has to be done with this. It's too beautiful not to be made into something. And I'm so grateful for Erica for putting it together. I've in the rain. I've looked at rain from every angle. I've looked from underneath. I've looked, yes, sir, from up on top. I've looked through a single drop. I've fallen off a leaf, and I've looked sideways between my eye and my rims. I've looked around and I've looked left. I've counted drips on my windshield, and I've seen her inverted legs. I've her legs wiggling away. I've seen the rain slide. I've been on the inside of the glass. I've seen them worm down. I've listened to the ping and the pang. I've got them in my downspouts. I've sat there in the rain. I've walked into the rain. Never mind the driving into my eyes. I've made promises in the rain and I've broken them. I've over the top of the car and waited. I've waited for her. Yes, that was from my first book, Understories, which has that white cover. I'll read a few from This Isn't the Apocalypse We Hoped For, also made into video poems, and as a cover of what looks to be garbage from tsunami or something like that. This poem, when I made it into a video poem, I took my own footage crawling underneath the deck of my cabin. You'll see why. Right through the earth. The rocking chair on its side, I want to say, breathing heavily, but it's me gasping as billions of neutrinos streak through the roof, then every square inch of me, then the floor, then the slab of petrified wood in the crawl space, souvenir of our final family vacation together, then right through the earth and out the other side. I want to see again its Arctic blue eyes, my husky circling in the back of the truck. This isn't how I thought it would end, with this light scattered off the flies buzzing about the orange bulb overhead, with a pull chain lengthened by a string. I want, more than anything, to be upright in my chair again for an hour, at least. The comfort of moving over familiar scritch marks on the floor. And I believe Erica reviewed this video poem when she was living in California, called Bring Me My Sky Canoe. A small apology of light between the clouds, then it evaporates. The sun ogles the hills, the bears continue to hide in the shadows, and we keep driving our cars into the harsh glare. Which species will see the second coming? We could travel in sky canoes if the air wasn't so thin, or if our canoes were built with feathers and breath. The trees below are perfect. The sun up here has a way of lighting everything slantwise. Strong arm of my paddle, strong arm of my paddle, strong arm of my paddle, take me safely along this ancient and fearful river. I'll head back to undiscovered country now. By the way, that last poem I read, a artist friend of mine was a sculptor, and he carved the poem into the side of an actual canoe, so it doesn't float very well. And we stuck it in a lake and got underwater footage of it drifting down with the light shining through the letters, and there's no computer enhancement on those scenes. It's really spectacular. We never thought we would get that. Walking back. We hold out for the smallest things on the narrow side of a long road, kicking at the rocks. This evening, nothing will have me, not even the moon that blinks through bands of cloud, moth-eaten by the stars and driven. My finger lifts the latch in the middle of this night. If only everything would swing as freely as leaf hinge in the silver maple shadowing overhead. Oh yes, we should wait and see what comes after. Slapdash and lopsided. I'm going to follow you, drunken moon, all night long with one eye closed, over street posts and apartment blocks and treetops, and through tattered leaves still clutching arms like roots, through barbed wire snarled over fences, through wooden pickets bedded around tombstones and long rectangles and shadows, and with all the difficult stars above. I will follow you, slapdash and lopsided grin, with your coat buttoned up wrong. I will follow the part of sorrow you carry, tipsy-like in a pocket, your one hand cradling it fiercely so it doesn't break. I will follow you like I did as a kid, with a speck on the car window, bobbing my head, the rest of the world bubbling away. Follow with my one eye closed tight against a paper bag sky and a good part of sorrow, until you fall off the table like a wayward marble, or until the fog rolls in and drowns you, or until you just disappear, slipping away like a secretive smoker, cigarette in hand, lit, propped up against some quiet corner, the night giving in. Rocked. Night was all around. We got a shock when we realized the moon was a giant rock hovering up there in the sky and ready to fall. And this thought plastered us against the grass. We couldn't move. Dad's story of being caught on an asphalt roller, barreling down backwards down the mountain, brakes gone, that's what it felt like. Sure, the moon looks small up there now, but where would we jump if it fell? It was hard to imagine Dad leaping off the machine, that he was young once, But on my 10th birthday, he did a beautiful roll on the lawn in front of all of my friends. I'll never forget his smile and shrug after. And maybe that's what he did up there on the mountain. Though the way he told it, it was all rocks and stumps and fear hidden under the bracken. The moon didn't follow that night, but it could have. So I'm going to read from a sequence of poems at the back of the book. They're all untitled. The poem itself is called Once Around the Sun. And I was in a writing stage where if I tried to title a poem, it would just block the process. So I just started writing untitled poems following the season, following the year, following my daughter growing up, and it went together at the end of the publisher put it together beautifully, and I'll just read. It's finally warm enough to play outside. Christy is shoveling snow off her lawn onto the road to make it melt faster. She does this every year. I crack scabs of ice at the edge of my driveway with my feet, relish the hollow boom and thud beneath. The gutters are overflowing, the neighborhood filled with the sound of dripping and a faint smell of barbecue and wood smoke. My daughter rides her bike for the first time this year, switches to her scooter, then brings out the bubbles. She is 9. She lands one on a plastic wand and holds it in front of her face. And through the rainbow glazed film, I catch the sheen of her childhood wavering before me. Overhead, a silent V of geese slides across the sky as if they were skimming on soap, as if they didn't need their wings. Women in their 40s and 50s are wearing skirts, and when they hold their knees together smartly and just so, they look younger. This is open toe season, and the small white petals of snowdrops are asking, and the leaves, their sudden flush on trees downtown are asking, and the sky is asking with its ineffable blue, will you hold my day like this, like hot toast held lightly between your fingertips as you carry it across the kitchen tiles? And in the days that followed, in playgrounds and parking lots, I asked all the parents with my eyes, will you hold your children even as they grow old? Some scoffed with their eyes. Spring has been around forever, and winter will come again. 2 crows in a scramble of trees speak, swoop down into the open field I'm standing in. We only see the shapes of things, a deep burgundy glow in their wings, a watermark imprinted on the sky, bodies ephemeral, like the fantail spray from a sprinkler shining in the sun. We praise the sudden affection of leaves, blossoms as the hard edges of winter soften. We see it in the clouds, can smell it, the air liquid we stick our fingers in. We enter the world through mysterious doors, a seed thrust through an abandoned slab, the asphalt peels back, bubbles, makes a tear in the earth. A dandelion leaf grows, is edged with drops of dew, and we enter. We enter through shadows shaped like birds, pecking at the ground. And it's light out early in the morning, and it's not even June yet. Compensation, some argue, for 6 months of winter, but you'd have to live up north to believe that. The dandelions poke through the grass, a million suns under contract. And there's more people walking around outside as if we all slid out of cracks in the concrete, as if you could take a blade of grass, get down close to the earth and use it as a pointer. Here is where I came from, unused, hard-edged, and alien, like a grain of pollen lodged in the ground. until the spring rains came, and look at me now. I'm as much as a new slip of green as you'll ever see. Even the homeless look half jolly in the sun, flipping bottles and cans with their feet in empty lots between the buildings. A lady mows her lawn next to the park, but already her grass is too tall. The mower calves repeatedly. There's more to this pseudo summer weather than we can stomach. Harumph, harumph. The engine nearly stalls again. And in that ball, buffalo pounding across the ancient prairie, their shaggy heads pitching forward as they collapse at the knees. Too much ice cream and candy and beer, too much meat on the barbecue, too much junk piling up in the carport. The first generation of dandelion has gone to seed. Thunderclouds form all around the rim of the bowl. We look up at the clouds rising higher and higher, and at the trees and the wind moving against the moving clouds, and lose our grip on this world. On clouded day, we sit a swirl in light, and grandmothers are at the park with cottonwood seed falling on their laps, and a boy is secretly practicing different expressions, and parents, stunned and blinking, call out to their freckled children, "We have become the sun. Everything is silvered and bright." We pull all day at the day, a tent, until its pegs give way at the horizon and collapses with us in a heap up north and laughing, squelching the darkness in the corners. The children playing near the river babble over stones, and mothers in sundresses and sandalwoods sit in a circle, singing. Today, around supper time, a large green butterfly flits between the trees in my backyard, impossibly, as if another world had been conjured and slid quietly into place when I wasn't looking. A long glass cylinder teems with sunlight from the northwest and illuminates this single pair of wings. Later, by some sleight of hand, the same light gleams off the uneaten peach skin by the sink. There's juice on my chin, and I roll the furrowed stone between my fingers. The butterfly was unaware I was there, watching from the shade of my deck, and the same light, though now richer, more yellow, as if the reveal is imminent, seeps in through the bathroom window where my daughter bathes, oblivious. We look back at our day like we look at any other day, the squarish reality of it, an unfinished woodworking project, as if we had been planing an area smooth and stopped mid-stroke. Some might say, gave up, sawdust scattered at the edge, the curl of shavings. Last night, thunder and lightning inserted themselves into my dreams, and I had to accept it, make sense of it, by imagining a theater company creating sound effects with large cookie sheets. And they were doing a good job too, had me fooled. If it wasn't for the flashes, unlitting my sleep. Our days are frayed and unsettled, but we take up our tasks each morning as if today will be different. We make our plans over coffee like generals, having shook off nightmares and grogginess. We sweep the counter with the edge of our hand. Today, enemy soldiers will fall like crumbs before me. They are nothing. Today I will clean up and be done. But the ragged end of the day always comes. We reluctantly watch the sun go down, its sorrow, its ensign, a red and orange stain. The boughs, having shouldered the sun, meddling squirrels, wing hum in the needles, the jangle of hours like copper pots carelessly placed, their hues embedded in each stem, and the long fingers of shadows finally rest. Evening lays birdsong down on shelves of thick green with both hands, breathes the first sigh of night. A stone of blue azurite appears in my dreams, hovering before me, as if the birds have brought me a piece of their sky, are holding it in their beaks with all its bottomlessness. And this is how I fall asleep, headlong, the crickets filling up the spaces of night, and darkness slipping in with its small-minded fears, its careening dreams, made from bits of reality I wasn't willing to tell you about before. I wish I could say I'm less afraid, now a father, but instead my skin has been rubbed thin with living. I worry about more things. I clutch them tight as I fall through the deep blue into the expanse, the universe racing away from me. Even the birds are quiet at night.